So today is an incredible day. I am so excited to be here with Kristyn Ramsey, who's Senior Director, Learning and Development for DR Horton. Kristyn, thank you so much for taking the time. We're going to talk about a very important topic today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Sheryl. Appreciate it.
Of course. And so before we jump in and talk about the importance of leading with humility, I thought I would ask, was there a person or a situation that really inspired you to be always learning, to care so deeply about your people?
Yeah, I think, the first person that comes to mind really is my dad. He raised me with a goal setting mentality. Growing up every year before school started, I had to sit down and I had to write out my goals and my academic goals and my personal goals and talk to him about it. And I think, as annoying maybe as it was as a teenager or a child, it really instilled in me to have a vision for your life and for your future and set those goals and go after them. So I really attribute a lot of my work ethic to him and my mom, because my mom was growing up, she worked and she worked outside the home, and so I saw her manage both business as well as home life. So come from a pretty high work ethic family, if you will. So
Yeah, that it definitely sounds like it. And I'm sure they're very proud. And so thinking about, a lot of times people watching me might think that you were just born into the world as a senior director, learning development on your way to,
yeah.
higher ranks in your company. But were there ever any side step, like there ever any roadblocks or difficulties? And if so, how did you get past them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been a journey. I didn't grow up saying, well, I'm going to be in learning and development. And, I went to college and kind of had one trajectory for my life. And I got into property management and I really enjoyed it and started in the field, in the office. And as I worked my way through the different positions and the ranks, I was met with rejection. A couple of times, actually. I applied to be training a training associate on site at my past job, and was told I wasn't ready, needed some more refinement. Fortunately, at the time, I had someone that was a mentor to me at the time and really invested in me. She was great for me. And then when I couple of years later, or maybe a year later, I went for the a training director job, and once again was met with, you're not quite ready and we need to show a little bit more of this, that, or the other. And so, I think because of the way I was raised and to kind of have that tenacity and resilience, I was able to bounce back and take the feedback and learn and grow and get better. But they were tough moments. I really was brought up with the mentality of, you work hard, you you're not entitled to anything. You work hard, you kind of work your way up, and you respect what the authority that people have. So if you're told no, then you can ask why, you can learn from it, but you don't push back. So I think, that was really good lessons for me, obviously in hindsight, and when you're in the middle of it and you're in the right in it, it's hard to take. It's creates a mentality. You can kind of go either way, right? You have a choice of, do I want to be bitter and do I want to be frustrated, or do I want to learn from it and get better and maybe become inspirational or an influence for other people that maybe are facing the same thing.
Yeah,
So
I love that you always have a choice.
yeah,
And I also think too, like if anybody, it's a tough job market out there. And I always think for anyone, if it's for feeling frustrated, or there is some value in giving yourself permission to just feel the feels.
Mhm.
I love your advice, and
Yeah.
just to you get to make a choice, and you don't have agency over someone if someone hires you or not, but you have agency over how it's handled and how to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so much of that is, finding your people that will come alongside you and help you with that. We all need support. And we need our people. So I have people in my life, and I've gone from being, I joke sometimes that I'm a recovering people pleaser, because I think when I first started in business, I wanted to please everybody. I was a um, young professional, and I did not have it all together. And I wanted to make everybody happy. And I had a female mentor who came alongside me and said, you got to do what's right, not what's popular. And that really, really stuck with me. And that's not always easy sometimes in the business world when people are looking out for themselves, or just trying to play the game. And then finding people that will hold me accountable and help me grow and kind of redirect me when maybe I'm off track a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's good advice all the way around, to do what's right and not what's popular. It's a good life motto and
Yeah.
business motto as well. And so then we're going to be talking about leading with humility. And can
Mhm.
you speak a little bit about the importance of it, but also, it sounds at first it really sounds like a nice to have, but I'm sure it also translates into an ROI as well for
Yeah.
companies. And so maybe talk about the importance of leading with humility, what it translates to, and also maybe what are the consequences if we don't lead with humility.
Yeah, I think, I think it's really interesting, the connection between humility and RI, because I think humility, the term, gets a bad rap. I think people have a tendency to, there's a famous quote that says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So it's I think oftentimes people think, well, humility equates to timidity, or it equates to a lack of confidence. And I just find that that's not true. I think humility is really trying to step outside of yourself and put the greater whole. So what's best for the company, what's best for the people of the company, because what's best for the people is going to turn into good things for the business. When you have team members that are engaged and are getting what they need versus what just I need at this time, what do I think is best? Being able to step outside of myself is really how I see that. And I think it impacts attrition, it impacts engagement, it impacts just that greatness inspired core value that here we really try to put at that forefront of what does it look like to be really successful where we're at right now. Our business model is is difficult sometimes, because of, and onboarding, offboarding, and just like any business, right? You're onboarding associates and you're offboarding associates, and what do you want those takeaways, and what do you want that legacy to be of your leadership?
hmm And so, can you share maybe one example of how to better lead with humility? Because I think for those listening, if you're thinking, oh, if this is a little bit of a wake-up call, but there might be listeners who say, I do lead with humility. But even if, for those who are even doing a great job, is there something to keep in mind, or to up level our ability to lead with humility?
I think it's just, yeah, I think that when you realize that everybody has something to offer, everybody has a gift, right? And regardless of the position you're in, the power that you that you have, um, recognizing the fact that each person has a unique gift to bring to the table, and that those gifts when honed in on, and they can manifest themselves in a really powerful way, in an influential way, um, and in an almost indirect way, which is a beautiful thing because people might not even realize that. And I think that gives people perspective. And perspective is a huge gift that that people don't have all the time. They kind of get inside themselves and and focus on what's right in front of them. And when you have the ability to perspective take, it's a beautiful thing because you learn more, you grow more, and you are able to be more creative. And you open up the doors for people to receive. And you can see people grow. And it's just kind of that cycle. It's that cycle of goodness that I
Mhm.
really like. I want to bring that humanity into business. I think you can balance humanity and ROI and bottom line
Mhm.
very beautifully. But I think that is a lot of times a learned skill that we need to work on. So for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And it seems like it's really a culture and mindset shift
Absolutely.
because rather than thinking of a business unit or a company having a hierarchy, meaning that I'm the CEO, I know everything, or I'm on this, I'm on the ELT, or I'm the VP, or what have you, and giving orders,
Mhm.
or it's
Right.
not assuming that leaders have all the answers.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Asking questions, coming with a curious, mindset. And I think that we're trying. I think we're working on it, but we've got a long way to go. I think, and but step by step, right? We say at our company, in my group, we always say our job is to try to get 1% better each day. And
Hmm.
so, what does that look like today? What does that look like tomorrow?
Hmm.
So, and failing is a part of that as well, trying to fail and learn from it. And I think so much of humility and failing is that choice that we talked about earlier of, are you going to fail and get better and learn, or are you going to, just give up?
Hmm. And do you think there needs to be a sense of or a culture or feeling of safety, in order to have a culture of humility?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If people don't feel safe to be their authentic selves or vulnerable, then they will never get to humility. And I think so much of that takes trust, right? So it always comes down to trust. So creating that workspace that is um a space where people can come and speak freely and speak their mind and do what's right, without feeling like they are wrong, without feeling like they're doing wrong. And if they are wrong, having that trust where you can get the feedback that comes from a place of they care about me and they want to help me, um, versus they're here to attack me and come at me. And humility, I think, would say, help me get better. I want your perspective. I want to hear what you have to say, versus, you know, lack of awareness or arrogance or what have you, that would say, I know what I'm doing. I know best. I don't have space for you to help me get better, because that's detrimental to growth and leadership.
Mhm. Okay, so then it seems like if you're a leader, you can implement a culture of humility. But what if you're an aspiring leader and you don't feel like there's a culture of humility? What is a way to bring it up, or what is one change that can be recommended that will make a difference?
Well, those are kind of two different questions for me. I think, I think the first is find your people. You find your people that you have influence with and that will listen to you. And you ask for time, right? You ask for a talk. I had to just recently reach out to someone that is, a senior executive level in our company and say, I realize that what I do is not necessarily um, totally known to you, and I want to fix that. I want to make sure that you understand what it is that I do and that my department does so that you can have a better understanding. So I want to spend some more time with you. So I think having the courage to have those conversations and get in front of people and find your people that will help advocate for you. I think just it's that ecosystem, and I talk about that a lot. Where I am right now is creating that healthy ecosystem of trust and authenticity, so that you can have those conversations. Sometimes the conversations are hard,
Mm,
because people don't have awareness all the time everywhere,
mm,
and so sometimes those conversations can be tough. In my role in L&D, and I know my other L&D people will understand this. We are oftentimes charged with having those conversations because we are the natural, trusted, safe space. So we have to work with our other leaders um, to coach and mentor and give them feedback on how they can reset, if you will.
mm.
So, and then
Yeah.
and then I think just for future upcoming, it all goes back to finding your group of people that will help you get to where you need to go. We all need, I just feel like I feel very passionate that we all need people. And
Mhm.
and we don't need a lot of people, but you need a trusted few.
And are you talking about internally or externally or both?
Both.
Hmm.
So I feel like I would definitely feel like it would be both. Uh I will say two of my best friends that I have in my life are from my previous company, and they're the people that I go to when I am maybe struggling with something here, that I would say, let me run this by you, because I need their perspective that is completely, unbiased, but they know me, right? They've known me for a really long time. So they know my ups and my downs and my downfalls. And then I need people here because it's relevant to our day to day. It's relevant to the day to day business, to the day to day success, and we need to be able to come together to have that shared voice and understand the realities.
Hmm. Yeah, that all sounds so important. And in terms, we were talking a little bit about before we started recording in terms of leading with humility, the importance of authenticity, and also the importance of continuing your learning journey. So, can you tie the authenticity and the learning, continual learning? And I have to share a sidebar. A
Yeah.
really long time ago, I think when I was out into the just beginning the working world, my dad said, "Well, you're going to be a lifelong learner." And I had just gotten out of college. I'm like, "Oh, that sounds terrible." Like I thought I was done. And now I really understand and embrace it.
Mhm.
But can you speak a little bit about the importance of continual learning, authenticity, and how it relates to humility?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. I love that too, that he said that. And again, just like we said, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't have perspective. And we tell our kids that all the time. We're like, you just don't have the perspective yet. I mean, we say it in the nicest way, but they just don't have that perspective yet. But I think as you grow older, you get a little bit more mature. That's why it's so important to me to find your mentors that have kind of walked that path before you, that can help you really understand and be okay with feeling your feels and where you're at, and but saying, I can see more. I can see it. I can see down the road for you. So keep going, and this is how we're going to do that. But as far as lifelong learning, it's interesting. The previous company that I was with, um, it was a great company. I had started my career there, and I was there for 24 years, and I and I know it's very unheard of these days. And so I had started on in the field on site, and I had worked my way up to rejections, remember, but kept with it and made some amazing friendships, had some great allies, both men and women. One of the mentors that I still seek out for wisdom is a man that hired me, when I was just very young, and he probably was one of the persons that rejected my ability at the time because he knew better. But I think that I got to a point where I knew I and I'd say this with all humility, I knew everything there was to know. I felt like I had plateaued in my learning, and I had this moment of reflection where I was like, "Well, I just have so far to go. I'm only not even halfway through my career span, right? I want to do more. I want to grow, but I'm comfortable here. I could be good." And I called a friend and I said, I just think that, I'm ready to make a change. And she was like, all right, I got something for you. I have something for you. And I connected with the person I work for now, who's amazing and has so much authenticity as a leader. Really uh, does not hide who she is. And it's so awesome to see every day. And we get to have some really great conversations. But I realized, I will say, when I came to this job that I'm at now, that I've been at for 3 years now, I realized how much I didn't know.
Mhm.
And because I knew everything I needed to know at that time. And then I came here and I realized there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I have to learn. And that really has sparked something in me, even in the last few years, I'm so hungry for learning. And then I realized in the business world that we're living in, AI, people, psychological safety, all these things that we're talking about are so relevant. And in order to keep up in the business world that we're in right now, you have to keep growing. Because if you don't want to, you just don't want to die on the vine from not being fed, you know? So it's really, I'm super passionate about that. I love to get out, talk to people. I love to talk to people inside my industry, outside my industry. As you can tell, I get a little passionate about it.
No, I think it's great. And also it's a really interesting perspective too, because as a lot of people are a little freaked out by AI, I know there's a more technical word for it as far as is it going to replace me, replace jobs, like how's it going
Yeah.
to fit in? But I love that commitment to learning. So, getting back to we have choices. And
Yep.
so if we get worried or nervous about something, we can freak out and be paralyzed and possibly become irrelevant, or we can have that energy spur us into learning.
Mhm.
Because maybe, and I'm just, at least what I've heard is that AI is not, I mean, it will replace some roles, but in many cases, it's really to augment what
Mhm.
people are doing. So if you're nervous about it, you get spurred into, oh, it can actually help me do X, Y, and Z. And you can put a plan together. Like, I just love that, just
Yeah.
making a choice and honoring the emotion, making the choice and making it a productive one.
Yeah. I love that. And having people that you're okay not being okay with, and that can kind of help regulate your emotion and say, okay, let's talk through it or let's process it. And obviously in L&D, we coaching, feedback, mentoring, we train people to ask the questions like, what do you need from me? Do you need me just to listen? Do you need my guidance? What is it that you need? So having those people that can do that for you, and then talk through. I love I know AI is such a big topic, and I heard something at a conference that really stuck with me about, AI won't replace you, but the people who know how to use AI will. And that was really powerful to me because I was like, yes. So, because we always need that human component. So always, always, always. And I
Yeah.
think business needs the human component. So You have to be able to balance, and you can have business acumen, you can have bottom line, you can have ROI, but you can also have authenticity, vulnerability, and humility. They can absolutely live in a world together. So
Yeah, I agree.
should.
Should, can,
Yes.
should. Yes, 100%. I agree. And so, what is something that you would like to leave everyone with? A call to action.
I think the call to action is, for me, when rejection comes, it doesn't mean you're being rejected. It just means that you have an opportunity to do something different or learn. I think that second, find your people, find your few. It doesn't have to be, you don't want too many voices in your life because it can get muddled and confusing, but find your few people. And then just, you know, learn how to perspective take.
Mhm.
Learn that everybody has something to give and something to offer, and there is a gift in being open about what different people bring to the table. So,
Yeah, I love that tie of humility to really understanding and valuing the spark inside of everyone, regardless of their role, and also being maybe curious about what it is.
mhm.
Yeah, and then I saw on a tying into what you were saying, there's a hike near where I am in San Diego, and there's a quote, and next time I go by, I'm gonna have to figure, I will let you know the author, but it's success isn't final and failure isn't fatal.
Yes, yeah, I've heard that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I know it's someone now I'm gonna have to look it up, but I love everything that you shared today. Congratulations on all of your recent successes, and
Mhm.
I look forward to continuing to follow your journey.
Oh, thanks so much for having me and letting me speak on my passion. I appreciate it.
Of course, it was my pleasure.